Hi guys, welcome back to Uncommon Voyagers. Thanks for tuning in again. I hope you're enjoying my little slideshows of contenders for the homes that we're looking at as serious contenders in Abruzzo. So today I'll be talking about a small town called Ofena. So it's one of the smaller towns that I'll be sharing. It has approximately 500 people living there, and it's in the province of Aquila. I always say that wrong, I think. But anyway, we'll jump straight in. So it's actually a palazzo we're looking at today, guys, which is very exciting. So everything else has been around on the smallish side, but this one could actually be absolutely amazing if someone had the time, effort, and a little bit of cash to to bring it back to its former glory, I guess you could say. So what I've got here is a couple of pictures of the exterior. As you can see, I've got house on the left with a little arrow, basically just showing the road that it's on. So you've got kind of the ruins in front and then the house, or the palazzo, to the left of the road that you can see. So actually has unobstructed views as far as I can see. I did go onto Google Maps and have a little look around and do Street View, and it is unobstructed as far as I can see. And then you've also got a little bit of a garden in the front that comes with it, and it could be a veggie garden or you could put flowers, you could do whatever you wanted really there. So the ad does say that there's a veggie garden. I believe that ruin in front is part of what's being sold. Unfortunately, it didn't have a floor plan. So we're jumping from outside into inside. We've got our beautiful entryway. If you've listened to any of my other videos regarding the properties, you'll know that I love a domed ceiling, which we've got in the entryway here. Some very cute tiles, and then a little secret room behind that colourful door at the end I thought was super cute. So you've got, I guess they stored their wine and all sorts of things under the stairs. It's probably a really good temperature under there. But anyway, I thought it was cute. You then go upstairs, so you're going up some stairwells. Now, the main thing that I could find from this was that when you walk into the office sitting room from coming up the first flight of stairs, there is a little bed there, as you can see in the picture, but I think it's more appropriate that that would be an office or sitting room because there are two rooms that go off that room to the left and to the right. Now, I've been doing some detective work based on the tiles that you can see, so it's kind of hinting to me what rooms come off that. So this again is what I would consider to be an office and sitting room, has some lovely light and windows coming off it. But off to the left, I believe, based on the tile pattern, we've got a bedroom, which has a bit of a weird configuration. It looks like there's some sort of boiler or something attached to the wall on the other side of the low wall that you can see on the left near where the chest of drawers are. So it looks a bit odd, but anyway, I believe that that room goes off to the left when you walk into the office or sitting room. And then if you walk to the right, you would have what I would call the lounge room. You could make it another bedroom, I'm assuming, if you wanted to. However, this one's already been set up. Now, the tiles again kind of gave me a hint as to what was in there. Love the tiles in this house, guys. I feel like I just want to buy it just for the tiles alone. But if this house was one of the ones that come with the furniture, usually there's a lot of stuff that I would kind of think I have to get rid of, unfortunately. But this house, if you look closely, it's an absolute treasure trove. There's so many pieces here that you could repurpose and would look absolutely phenomenal. So again, in love with the tiles. If you look at the lounge dining, I cannot believe those tiles. I'm super excited. Like I just could imagine cleaning them up and bringing them back to their former glory. So some big rooms. It doesn't look like we've got vaulted ceilings in some of the bigger rooms, but that's okay. We've got some kitchen photos here. It has some very interesting design choices, but you know, I don't know when the last time someone was in there that lived there. May have been the 70s, but there's some definite choices there in terms of decoration. But yeah, you can see that it has a fireplace, which is awesome. It looks to be a decent size. No idea where it kind of sits in regard to floor plan, but it's a nice big kitchen and clearly there's plumbing there. So found a couple, some more bedrooms. Apparently there's 4 bedrooms in this one. So this is a bigger one that may be up the next flight of stairs because there are 3 flights. So yeah, it's got some lovely light in there. I could just imagine that bringing back this to its former glory would be amazing as well. And you've got some awesome tiles there. Um, Again, now there's all different tiles obviously throughout the house. However, that doesn't mean a lot really. I mean, you can make each room an individual and utilize the tiles if you want to. Now, bathroom, very interesting in that it looks like the bathroom is kind of off the stairwell. So you kind of, I guess, step into or off the stairs um, into that bathroom. The ad on Idealista says that there are 2 bathrooms. However, I've only been able to locate one based on the floor plan. Also, apologies, guys, for the words jumping down on the slideshow. I'm not sure what happened there, so apologies. Now, the ad also says that there's an extra house, or you could turn this one house into 3 houses, which means that because I don't have a floor plan, it's difficult to know, but clearly this is a different house or a different part of the house based on the mess that's in there. This obviously wasn't in the other photos. And then on the right, where I've written ruins, I'm thinking maybe it's actually further along. So it's next to the house, but it's not necessarily, doesn't look like it's part of the palazzo. So I did see on Street View that it might have been the house directly attached next door, or this could be the ruins that you can see in front. I'm not actually sure, but it's still a whole lot of house that you could bring back to life. So just to give you some details, the property details, it's a palazzo, or 3 separate homes. You could kind of break them up. 3 floors, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. You've got a terrace and balconies. There's a garage, which I didn't see, but maybe that's what's in front of the house as well. Really not sure, actually. Garden in front of the house, which was where I said you could potentially put a veggie garden. And apparently there's some terrace land as well. So there's quite a bit of bang for your buck in terms of this one. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm realistic. I understand that you'd have to sink some money into this place. But when you hear the price, I think you'd think it's worth it because I've also looked up different prices of places that sell in Ofena and they actually sell quite reasonably. So, in terms of where it is distance wise, I always like to kind of give some sort of context because usually people know about Salmona or Pescara. So, what's essentially here is that it takes about 50 minutes to get from Ofena to Pescara by car, or it takes about 40 minutes to get to Salmona. Now, obviously, you've got all of these other towns around, like Capistrano, which is probably the one I know the best because I've been there. So anything you need that you can't get in Ofena, I would say that I think Capistrano is about 6 kilometers away. Sorry, not sure about miles if any Americans are listening, but 6 kilometers isn't very far at all. So natural attraction wise, you can go canoeing on the Torino River. It is actually it's under an hour to the Trabocchi coast or Pescara. I mean, you've got the beaches to choose from there. And then you've also got the Campo, I can't even say it, but it's basically called the Campo Plateau, and it's known as Little Tibet because it gives Tibetan vibes. And it's also at the foot of the Gran Sasso, so you've got lots of hiking and beauty right at your doorstep. It is Abruzzo after all. Current cultural and historical sites. We've got the Santa Maria Cryptus, which is a famous church basically. You've also got Rocca Calascio, which is probably the most famous castle. And then you've also got ruins and whatnot around. Now, in terms of infrastructure, yes, water and electricity, yes to internet. Emergency services in terms of ambulance, no, but you've got doctors in town, and then you've got banking and a post office. So you're pretty much covered. You don't have to leave the town to do any banking or posting of anything like that. So that's good news. And obviously, if you've got a doctor, if you need to get to a hospital, that information is coming up, but you'd probably be going to Salmona. Now, in terms of food and shopping, no home or homeware or hardware stores in town. It is a small town. No big supermarkets. However, you do have a weekly market on a Tuesday morning. You've got your small local shops where you can get really what you need in terms of fresh produce. And there's no clothing stores in town. You would have to go to, say, a bigger town. So you might need to go to Sulmona, Popoli, or any of those bigger towns around. You could actually, I think it's actually an equal distance between Sulmona and La Aquila, which I can never say. So they're your closest, biggest town. So you could go there for a shopping spree if you wanted to, but you basically have everything you need in town. Now, transport is another thing. I've got all these different things on here. Can you walk the town? Yes. Is it bike friendly? Yes, although there are some steep hills. Are there local and regional buses? Yes, but they're not necessarily regular. So what I would say is with this town, I would have to break my rule of not having a car, and you would need a car to get around. You can get to closer towns like Capistrano, like I mentioned, which has more regular buses and more transport. But I think you'd have to be really, really careful about getting in and out of town. It might only run with the school day or something like that. Now, in terms of airports, you're about an hour by car from Pescara, 2 hours to 2.5 hours by car from Rome, depending on what airport you need to go to. But unfortunately, there's no train station and no regular buses that I could really find. So, again, actually isn't a school in the town, which means that maybe they just have buses running to different towns. Now, for healthcare, you do have a local doctor, a local clinic. If you needed to go to hospital, to go to a larger hospital, you'd probably go to Sulmona or Penne, which is a 30 to 40-minute drive by car. So if being near hospitals is important to you, this may not be this wouldn't be the town for you. Now, in terms of well-being, you could go to Sulmona, Popoli, Capistrano. There are a bunch of different towns that have different things. And when I say well-being, I mean anything that's kind of more allied health. Now, education, unfortunately, there was a primary school in Ofena that closed, which means that you would have to be going to, say, Capistrano, which I believe is about 6 kilometres away. So you could also go to Penne, which is 20 kilometres away, which has high schools, vocational schools, that sort of thing. But yeah, Capistrano is probably the best bet because that has a primary and a secondary school. But the exciting thing is you've actually got a summer school in Ofena which teaches Italian, which I would absolutely jump on because I am terrible at Italian. Now the price, how exciting is this? Can you believe 15,000 euros plus fees and taxes? As I always say, I always add on about another 30% just to be really, really covered so I don't get any nasty surprises. Now, you might say, well, 15,000 euros, but look at the state of the place. But I don't know. I still feel like if you bought it, and even if you had to sink a little bit of money into it, what you would get in the end and what value you could put into it in terms of, you might decide that you want to rent it out as an Airbnb. I mean, if it could be broken up into 3 different homes, the options there really are a little bit, you know, amazing. So yes, you would have to spend a bit of money in there to get it back to its former glory. However, again, at 15,000 euros, 27,000 Australian plus fees and taxes, and then 17,000 US. So that's just approximate, obviously, but still an absolute complete bargain and such a beautiful town. It's actually called the oven of Abruzzo because it has its own microclimate, which is just lovely. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. It was a bit different to my usual. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, comment, share, like, subscribe. I love getting the comments, guys. Tell me what you would do with the house, or if you would stay away from it and put it in the too hard basket. But I really love it. I love the price. I love where it is. And I love, I guess, what you could do. Anyway, thanks, guys. Bye.